Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Contents of our today's lecture are: today we will discuss distance relay operation with zero voltages, and we will also discuss in detail what is mean by the zero voltage. Then we discuss polyphase distance relays, the difference and advantages of polyphase distance relays as compared to single phase distance relays. And then at the end, we discuss this important topic, distance protection for multi-terminal line. First, we define what is meant by the multi-terminal line, and then what are the challenges for the setting of distance relays in case of multi-terminal line. Expected outcome. At the end of the lecture, student will learn about problems associated with the operation of relays with zero voltages. Student will learn about the techniques used to make the relay operative with zero voltages and difference between phase and zone packaging of single phase distance relays. And student will be able to learn about the protection challenges related to the protection of multi-terminal line. So let's start our discussion from relay operation with zero voltage. This statement will become more sensible if we read it as relay operation in case of a fault that result in zero voltages at the relay installation point. So the problem which is associated with electromechanical relays in case of close-in fault which result in zero voltage could be understood if we recall the construction of electromechanical type relays. So this was a generalized torque equation. We had modified this equation to take the characteristics of directional relay and characteristics of Moore relay, admittance relay. In the first equation, Vi sine theta plus phi, here in this equation, if we divide this equation with I square, this will become Z sine theta plus phi equal to 0, which is a straight line in XY in RX plane, so known as characteristics of a directional relay. Okay, and for Moore relay, it is V is equal to ZR I sine theta plus phi. If we divide the second equation with I, so that will become Z is equal to Z. Here we were discussing these two characteristic equation of directional relay and admittance relay. When we substitute the value of V equal to 0, that satisfies these two equations. So these two equations are actually boundary condition of direction relay as well as admittance relay. Substituting V is equal to 0 in above equation means point is on the straight line, and here in the second equation it means point is on the circle, and V is equal to 0 point. On Rx plane, that will be equal to Z is equal to V over I. If we substitute V is equal to 0, that will become 0, and that is a point on the origin of Rx plane. So that is a boundary condition. For V is equal to 0, both these equations lead to uncertainties of operation. We know whenever we have the boundary condition, no matter what is the type of relay, whether it is overcurrent relay, level detected, distance, directional, when relay will be on the verge of its operation on the boundary condition, so there is uncertainty of its operation. Relay may operate, may not operate, because that is the boundary condition. If we look at the same concept with the help of this diagram, here is the center of Rx plane which lies on the circle, or you can say circle is passing through the origin. Similarly, in case of directional relay, straight line is passing through the origin and V is equal to 0. This condition is actually origin of Rx plane. So in this situation, relay will be at the verge of its operation, the boundary condition. Definitely, in this condition, if operating point will be well inside this circle, there will be no problem for relay to operate. And if operating point is outside the circle, relay definitely no response is required. But once the point is on the boundary, no matter at which location, that is the relay is at the verge of its operation. Relay may or may not operate. Okay. So this V is equal to zero fault. A fault which will result in zero voltage at the relay installation point is actually origin of Rx plane. So relay will be at the verge of its operation. What will be the consequence? A zero voltage fault is likely to be misjudged as its direction. That is the only problem associated with zero voltage fault. What does it mean? To understand this thing, look at this one line diagram. Here, this relay RAB could be a directional relay or admittance relay. Both are inherently directional, looking the flow of current in this direction shown by this arrow. If fault will be in forward direction, that would be sensed by this relay RAB. And if fault will be behind the relay would not be able to sense this fault. But in case of a close-in fault, that is in forward direction, voltage may collapse to zero. As voltage will collapse to zero, this relay RAB will be at the verge of its operation, means on the boundary condition. Okay, relay now may fail to detect that proper direction of this fault. Obviously, for this fault, relay must operate, but as this fault has resulted in zero voltage, relay may judge this fault as fault in opposite direction. Okay, because there is no polarizing quantity to determine the direction in case of direction relay, and there is no sufficient torque to cause the tripping of admittance relay. So due to this reason, this relay RAB may not respond to this fault which is in its trip direction, and that happened due to the unavailability of voltage. And why voltage is not available? Because this fault is too close to the relay to cause the voltage to collapse to zero. Similarly, misjudgment of direction may occur if fault occurs in opposite direction. Okay, so definitely relay should not operate for this fault because it is in reverse direction. But again, it is a close-in fault that will result in voltage zero voltage. Voltage will collapse to zero, and again there is uncertainty. It is possible that relay may not operate for this fault, but possibility is also there that relay may respond to this fault, which is in opposite direction. So due to this uncertainty, if a relay is operating for a fault for which it should not operate, that is loss of security. That could be tolerated. But the first condition where relay was not responding to a fault for which it has been designed to respond, loss of dependability, that was not acceptable. Okay, so that's why we will have to make sure that relay is operating correctly in all circumstances, even in case of zero voltage. I hope up to this point you people have idea what is mean by the zero voltage fault and what could be the consequence of that zero voltage fault. Now, from here onward, we discuss the solution of these problems and what could be the problem with those solutions. So the first solution of this problem is we provide a memory action. A memory action will provide voltage after the occurrence of fault for a short duration so that these two type of relays, admittance relay and directional relay, have a polarizing quantity or voltage signal to proper judgment of the direction. So due to decaying amplitude will sustain pre-fault voltage in polarizing circuit for few cycles after occurrence of zero voltage fault, this memory action could provide voltage for short duration so that a relay can make a decision. So how it is achieved? In case of electromechanical relays, it is achieved by a series tuned polarizing circuit. So we insert a capacitor in series with the voltage coil of the relay. So that capacitor has been tuned with the coil so that it can resonate at 50 Hz frequency with each other. Once the system voltage will collapse to zero, so this series RLC circuit, R will be the resistance of the circuit, L is the inductance of voltage coil, and C is the capacitance that we have inserted to provide this memory action. So voltage will be available across that voltage coil for a short duration. Definitely this voltage will quickly collapse to zero, but during that time, that is sufficient for the relay to make a decision. So that lasts for very short duration, only a few cycles, but that is sufficient for relay to make a secure decision. Now, although we have a solution, but there is a problem with this solution. This memory action, the operation of this tuned series RLC circuit, that requires a normal pre-fault voltage. Okay, it means if system was working normally and then a zero voltage fault occurs, only then this memory action can provide the memory action so that relay can take proper decision. But if pre-fault voltage is also zero, then this memory action is of no use. What does mean by zero pre-fault voltage? For example, we were energizing a system from de-energized state. Definitely protection should be there so that if fault is there in the system, when we energize the system, that fault should be cleared by the protection scheme. But if there is a fault of zero voltage and we have zero pre-fault voltages for the relay memory action, then what happens? When we energize the system, relay may not operate for that fault due to the misjudgment of direction. Why it had happened? Because memory action requires a non-zero pre-fault voltage, but we had a zero pre-fault voltage because we are energizing system from de-energized state. This happened, for example, a transmission line has been taken out of service for maintenance, and we know that transmission line both ends will be intentionally grounded to discharge the stray capacitances. If somebody forget to remove that grounding chain from the line and close the circuit breaker, that is a typical example of zero voltage fault, three-phase zero voltage fault. So we have de-energized the system and we are energizing it from de-energized state. So there will be no pre-fault voltage. So there is no memory action. So relay would not be able to properly judge the direction. Relay may fail to respond to this fault. That could happen. So that is the problem with memory voltage. Memory voltage will work well if fault occurs during the normal energized state of power system. So that requires a pre-fault voltages, and it is of no use if we are energizing a system from de-energized state and there is a zero voltage fault in the system. So we have discussed this. Now, solution of this problem. To provide protection against a zero voltage fault, an instantaneous overcurrent relay can be used to reach just beyond the point of installation of relay. Okay. So what is the purpose of this instantaneous overcurrent relay? If fault occurs at the time of energization of a transmission line, so that could be detected with the help of instantaneous overcurrent relay because our distance relay with memory action may fail to judge the direction. So instantaneous relay would be there to judge this fault. So although we set the value of pickup of instantaneous overcurrent relay to very high value, so that is it will sense fault that occurs only close to the relay, resulting in zero voltage. As the fault will move away from the relay location, level of fault current will reduce, but we get sufficient voltage to determine the direction of fault. So that is the solution. It means when we energize the transmission line, instantaneous overcurrent relay would be there to sense the fault. But problem is there is a problem with instantaneous overcurrent relay as well. So look here. First, we had a problem of operation of relay at zero voltage. We had its solution with the help of in memory action. Then we have seen that memory action has a problem that it need a normal pre-fault voltage. We have solved that problem with the help of instantaneous overcurrent relay. Now use of instantaneous overcurrent relay also has a problem, and that problem is it is non-directional. Instantaneous overcurrent relay can sense fault in either direction, forward or reverse. It means we cannot keep this relay in service all the time. So we need its operation only during the energization of transmission line. Once it has been energized, we will have to remove this instantaneous overcurrent relay from the system. The solution is just take that instantaneous overcurrent relay out of system once we had properly energized the system. For how long that relay will be in service? Normally only 10 to 15 cycles of the current. So that is few milliseconds, few hundred milliseconds. This is the time for which instantaneous overcurrent relay will remain in the system. If no fault occurs during that time, then instantaneous overcurrent relay will be taken out of the system because now the memory action will be there to respond to the fault in case a zero faulty fault occurs. Remember, all this discussion that we have just done, all these problems are associated only with electromechanical type relays. In case of computer-based distance relays, it is a simple matter to provide memory action by storing the pre-fault data for as long duration as one wishes. So due to this reason, that is not a problem in modern digital relays. But still in our power system, both type of relays are in use, electromechanical relays as well as numeric relays. So after discussion of zero voltage fault, next topic is polyphase relays. As we have seen in our previous discussion, that we need three single phase relays for three phase system to detect phase fault, and we need three single phase relays to detect three line to ground faults. In this way, total 6 relays were required to provide protection against all 10 types of faults. And if we want to provide protection to more than one zone, so we will have to replicate these relays as many times as the number of zones. For one zone setting, we need 6 single phase relay units. Similarly, for second zone, we need 6 more units. For third zone, we need 6 more units. So in this way, total 18 single phase relay units are required to provide three phase protection to a line up to 3 zone of protection. So what is a polyphase relay? So a single polyphase relay can replace 3 single phase relays. Okay, it means we need one polyphase relay for phase fault and one polyphase relay for ground fault. Okay, so all the three voltages and current will be given as input to this polyphase relay. So in this way, we need only two electromechanical polyphase relay, one for phase, other for ground. And if we want to provide protection up to 3 zone of protection, so we need total 2 for one zone, 2 for second zone, 2 for third zone, total 6 polyphase relays. In case of single phase relays, we need total 18 single phase relays. So a single three-phase numeric relay can also be used to cover all the fault types. That is the advantage of modern numeric relays over electromechanical relays. A single relay can provide all the three zone protection as well as protection against phase fault as well as against ground faults. These polyphase relays will be provided with all the three phase voltages and currents. One advantage of polyphase relay is that for most zero voltage fault that occurs either due to a double line to ground fault or single line to ground fault, at least some of the voltages are not zero. So that will be sufficient to properly detect or determine the direction of fault. So that is the advantage of polyphase relay. But in case of a three-phase zero voltage fault where all the three terminals are short circuited with each other, voltage has collapsed to zero. We need again all those solutions that we have just discussed: memory action, instantaneous overcurrent relay, and a mechanism to remove instantaneous overcurrent relay from the system. So next topic is only for your information, knowledge, and there was a correction in your textbook because the detail given in your textbook is confusing. So go through the detail that I have provided here in these slides. That you will be able to understand this concept. That is distance relay packaging. Distance relays are available in two packages known as phase packaging and zone packaging. Now we'll discuss these two packaging in detail one by one. This packaging has impact on the cost of installation and complexity associated with the testing and maintaining the relays. First is the phase packaging. A complete phase protection package consists of a relay for each zone of a pair of phases. For example, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 for phase AB. Similarly, we need such three packages for the protection of three-phase system. Remember, timers are integral part of such packaging. So timers are always provided with phase packaging. Next is zone packaging. A complete zone protection package consists of a relay element for each pair of phases, that is, for phase AB, BC, and CA. We need as many zone packages as we have the number of zone to set. And if we want to provide protection, three zone protection to the line, then we need three such zone packaging. Timers are mounted only for zone 2 and zone 3 packages. Now we compare zone packaging and phase packaging with each other and discuss their merits and demerits. Now at this stage, first thing to understand what is meant by these packaging, because the theory I have discussed would not clear this concept in your minds. So I have made this slide for you people. Look only for phase relays. We know that phase distance relay will take two voltages, that will be a line to line voltage, and two currents to take the difference. So here I have made those three single phase relays required for the protection of zone 1. That is the relay RAB, RBC, RCA. What will be the input to relay RAB? That will be voltage V and current IA minus IB. Ratio of that voltage to current will detect all the phase fault in zone 1. Okay. Similarly, for BC, input will be voltage VBC and current will be IB minus IC. The ratio of that voltage to current will give us the impedance up to the fault point in phase B to C. Similarly, in CA. Now, similarly, we have three relay units for zone 2 and three relay units for zone 3. So these are those 9 single phase relay units that will be used for the protection of line against phase fault. We need similar 9 units for ground fault. So in this way, total 18 single phase relay units are required for the protection of three phase line in three zone protection against phase and ground faults. Okay. Now here we discuss what is mean by these packaging. If these three relay units are AB for zone 1, or AB for zone 2, or AB for zone 3 are placed in a single casing, okay? So this type of packaging, this package is known as phase packaging, okay? Because we need such three packages for three phase system. One package for phase AB, other package for phase BC, third package for phase CA. So what is a phase packaging? In a phase packaging, a relay unit is provided for all the three zones, zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Okay. How many such packages are required for three-phase system for phase fault? Three such phase packagings are required. Similarly, three are required for ground fault protection. I am not discussing that ground fault protection here. That will be similar to the phase protection. So that is meant by phase packaging. Similarly, we have a phase package here for phase BC and for phase C. Now, it was mentioned when we were discussing its definition, timers will be integral part of these packaging. We can see here in each package, we have a relay corresponding to zone 2 as well as a relay corresponding to zone 3. And we know that these two zones are delayed. So zone 1 will be instantaneous, zone 2 is delayed by 0.3 seconds, and zone 3 is delayed by 1 second. So that's why as zone 2 and zone 3 are part of this packaging, timers will always be provided with these phase packaging. Next is zone packaging. Here is a zone package. If the three relay units are combined in this manner, that each relay unit is for each pair of phase, and that is known as zone packaging. Okay, so our zone packaging consists of a relay unit for each pair of phase. In case of phase fault relays, and it consists of relay for each phase in case of ground fault. How many such packages are required for three zone protection? Three such packages are required. Okay, if we want to limit only protection up to two zones because there is no next line section to be backed up by this relay, then we can use only two such packages, zone 1 and zone 2. No need to use zone 3. Okay. Now here in this packaging, timers are not part of the packaging because this zone package could be used for zone 1 or it could be used for zone 2 or 3. That's why if we are using these packaging for zone 2 and 3, we use a separate timer to delay their operation by zero point 0.3 and 1 second respectively. Okay. So timers are provided separately with these packaging. Timers are not part of these packaging. So now we discuss what is the merits and demerits, or you can say comparison of each other, which is better. Starting from the phase packaging. In phase packaging, we can see here connections are very simple because each package requires only two voltage connection and two current connection. So that's why connections are very simple. Next, timer is already provided with the packaging. Third thing, the disadvantage. If we want to take the first package, which is for phase AB, out of service for calibration or maintenance. So look at here. There is no protection in phase AB because all the three zones has been taken out of service, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. If fault occurs on the system during this calibration or maintenance period, so backup will have to respond or clear this fault. So that is the disadvantage of this phase packaging. Once a package is out, all the three zone protections are out of service from that phase. Now here in case of zone packaging, the first disadvantage that we will have to provide all the three currents and voltages to each of zone packaging, and we will have to use separate timers for zone 2 and zone 3. So that is a wastage. Okay. Second thing, that will make the connection complex as well. And second thing, the advantage is if we have protection only up to two zones, we can save the cost of installation of relay for the third zone. So we can use only two packaging. That is the advantage. And another other advantage, for example, if we want to take this first package, this one, out of service for maintenance purpose, then you can see here zone 2 is still there. If fault occurs on any phase during that maintenance or calibration purpose, zone 2 will respond to this fault, or although after a delay of 0.3 seconds, but that will be there to respond to this fault and clear the fault. And if zone 2 is out of service for maintenance and fault occurs beyond the reach of zone 1, but on the same line section, then zone 3 will be there to clear this fault after a delay of 1 second. But fault will be cleared by the primary protection. There is no tripping of extra lines to clear this fault. Backup is not required. So that is the advantage of zone packaging, our phase packaging. Now your attention is required in discussion of this topic, that is relays for multi-terminal lines. So transmission line may be tapped to provide intermediate connection to a load or to reinforce the underlying lower voltage network through a transformer. So that point of tapping make a line having multiple terminals. You can see that thing here in this diagram. This was originally a line between substation 1 and 3. This transmission line has been tapped at this point. Let's call it point C, the tapping point. Okay. So what is mean by this tapping point? Now due to this tapping, the line has two terminals. If we start this line from substation 1 from here, it has two ends. One end at substation 3, other end at substation 2. And if we look into this line from substation 2, it has two ends at substation 1 and substation 3. Similarly, if we look into this line from substation 3, it has two ends at substation 1 and substation 2. In this way, this will become a multi-terminal line. Why it is a multi-terminal line instead of three line segments? On this point C, if without building a substation, we have tapped the line, that will make it multi-terminal line. But if we build a substation at that point, so we had a dedicated substation that will have the circuit breakers installed over there and protection system. So now this system line has been separated into three small line segments. But that is an expensive job to do to install a complete substation over there. So to save the cost, we just tap the line with the help of simple switches which could be operated in de-energized condition like isolators. So now this line has multiple terminals. We have substation and protection equipment only at substation 1, 2 and 3. There is no equipment, protection equipment here at this tapping point C. So that make it multi-terminal transmission line. So what are the challenges in case of this multi-terminal transmission line? Let's say in this fault condition here, fault at F, and we are observing this fault at substation 1 with the help of relay R1. What is the impedance up to the fault point? Obviously that will be impedance between the relay R1 up to the tapping point C, which is Z1, plus impedance from tapping point C up to the fault, that is ZF. So this total impedance will become Z1 plus ZF. Now let's see what is that impedance due to the presence of this other terminal of the line at substation 2. So here is the equation of voltage which is available to relay R1. E1 is equal to the voltage drop across Z1 due to current I1 plus voltage drop across this impedance ZF due to current I1 plus I2. here is a contribution of fault current from substation 2 as well towards the fault. So voltage across this ZF is due to these two currents I1 and I2. Now if we divide this voltage E1, actually this is E1. This voltage E1 with the current which is available to relay I1. So this equation will give us impedance seen by the relay R1, Z apparent. And here we can see that is equal to Z1 plus ZF into 1 plus I2 over I1. Okay. Here it is important to note. In the absence of this end of the line at substation 2, impedance up to the fault point was Z1 plus ZF. But due to the presence of the other terminal and contribution towards the fault from that other terminal, that impedance ZF is appearing higher than its actual value due to this in-feed current from the other terminal. How much higher? 1 plus I2 over I1, the ratio of two currents. Okay, and this current I2 is known as in-feed current, that is being fed from the other end and has a phase angle very close or almost in phase with local current I1. Okay, and same argument can be rendered if fault occurs here on this terminal. Okay, then there will be a contribution from this substation 3 towards the fault. So if I call this impedance from point C up to the fault point ZF, so this equation will become impedance seen by the relay R1 will be equal to Z1 plus ZF into 1 plus here. This I2 will become I3. I3 by I1 because remote end current which is acting as a in-feed is I3 this time. Okay, this is an issue. Impedance seen by the relay is actually higher than the actual impedance up to the fault point. So if our relay will see an impedance higher than the actual value, relay will underreach. This is known as relay is underreaching. What is mean by the relay is underreaching? For example, we have set relay R1 to provide protection up to the 85% of line length, let's say, up to this point. Let's say this is zone 1 of relay R1. And this fault F is obviously inside the zone of protection. Okay, but due to this current I2 which is in feed, impedance seen by this relay R1 has become higher than the actual impedance. It is quite possible that due to this additional multiplying factor with ZF, total impedance Z apparent seen by this relay will become higher than this reach of the relay, and relay may consider this fault as beyond its zone 1 and zone 2 may respond to this fault. Okay, so what had happened? Although fault was inside its zone of protection, but due to this higher apparent impedance than the actual value, relay has considered this fault beyond its reach. So means relay has actually underreached. It is not providing protection up to the level up to which it has been set. This is known as underreaching, and relay always underreach due to in-feed current. Okay. Now, while making the relay setting, we will have to consider this situation because we have three zone protection: zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Okay. So zone 1 is always set to underreach. We never want zone 1 to overreach, and zone 2 and zone 3 is always set to overreach. We never want zone 2 and zone 3 to underreach. So these are the criteria for zone setting. And why we don't want zone 1 to overreach and zone 2 and 3 underreach, we have already discussed in second lecture of chapter number 5. Okay, so now we will have to consider this thing in mind while doing the relay setting. So now question is whether we consider this in feed present in the system while doing setting, or we will have to ignore it. That is the main thing to address. What I have mentioned, just mentioned, that due to this in-feed current relay will underreach. It means this presence of in-feed current is not a problem for zone 1. Zone 1 is already set to underreach. Presence of this in-feed will further reduce the reach of relay, not a problem. Because we never want zone 1 to overreach. Otherwise, it is going to trip in the same time as the relay of next line section. There will be loss of coordination. Similarly, zone 2 and zone 3, we never want these two zones to underreach. Reason because zone 2 is to complete the protection of the primary line section to provide protection by providing protection to the leftover portion of the line by the zone 1. So that's why zone 2 must detect a fault which is beyond the reach of zone 1. So due to this reason, we never want zone 2 to underreach. And what about zone 3? The same reasoning. Zone 3 is there to back up the complete next line section. So we never want that a fault in next line section is missed by the backup when backup is required. So that's why zone 3 is always set to overreach. So by keeping this thing in view, we will ignore the presence of in-feed during the setting of zone 1. If in-feed will be there, the reach of relay will further reduce, not a problem for us because zone 2 is there. For zone 2 and zone 3 setting, we will always consider the presence of in-feed while doing the setting. Because if in-feed will not be there, reach of relay will further increase. That is not as problematic as the underreaching of zone 2 and zone 3. So here we conclude for zone 1, ignore in-feed. For zone 2 and zone 3, consider in-feed. Here I will solve an example in front of you and then I will give you an assignment to do so that you get clear with this concept. Statement of this example is a system is given to us. All the impedances of that line have been provided to us. Our task is to find out relay setting, 3-zone setting for relay RB for this multi-terminal line. It is assumed that the ratio of in-feed current I2 to local current I1, this one, is 1.2 and ratio of in-feed current I3 and local current I1 is 0.5. So these ratios have been provided to us. Instead of ratios, actual value of I2, I1, I2, I3 can be provided to us. We will have to calculate that ratio in that way. That is the end problem of this chapter. Now let's start the setting of relay RB. First of all, zone 1 of RB. Now we have two ends of this line. One is from B to D, other end is from B to G. Criteria for zone 1 setting is it will be 0.85, 85% of line length. Now question is that should be either from B to D or from B to G. Okay, this is the first question. Second is whether while measuring this line length, we will have to consider in-feed or we will have to ignore the in-feed. So this second question I have just answered in previous slide that for zone 1 setting, we will ignore the in-feed because if in-feed will be there, relay will further underreach, no problem for us. So line length from B to D in the absence of in-feed will be the sum of this impedance 4 plus J40 and 2 plus J20, that is 6 plus J60. And line section from B to G is sum of 4 plus J40 plus 1 plus J10. So that is 5 plus J50. So these are the two line sections. The question is zone 1 should be 85% of which of these two line sections, Z B to D or Z B to G. Now criteria for zone 1 is it must underreach in all circumstances. Otherwise, we are going to lose the coordination. Okay. So in this way, we will have to consider the shorter of these two line lengths. Reason because if we will select the longer one, it is quite possible that 85% of that longer end of the line may become greater than 100% of the shorter one. So due to this reason, we will select the shorter one. So obviously our selection will be this line section ZB to G. That is 5 plus J50. So zone 1 will be 85% of 5 plus J50, and that is equal to 4 plus 4.25 plus J42.5 ohm, and in polar form that would be 42.71 with angle 84.29. So please always write your zone setting last impedance in polar form as well, because the impedance relay as well as admittance relay both need their setting based upon the magnitude of impedance at least. Okay, for admittance relay we need angle at in addition, but for impedance relay this magnitude is required. So I hope now you have got the idea how to do the zone 1 setting of multi-terminal line. First thing, we ignore the infeed. Second thing, by ignoring the infeed, we calculate the two end line length, and shorter line length will be considered for the setting. Next is zone 2 setting of RB. The purpose of zone 2 is to provide protection to the leftover portion of the primary line section. Okay, and zone 2 is always set to overreach beyond the line length. So due to this reason, we will have to consider the infeed. Now the criteria is zone 2 is equal to 1.2, 120% of line length. Now this line has two ends, two lengths. The question is which one should be selected. Obviously, we will have to select the longer one so that the zone 2 is always in overreaching mode. It is looking the fault beyond the line length so that it is covering the leftover portion. So now next is, obviously from this diagram we can see B to D is longer length as compared to B to G. But remember, this comparison which line length is larger than the other will be done in the presence of infeed. So we will have to calculate the impedance of these line sections seen by the relay RB in the presence of infeed, and then we make the decision which two line sections will be compared with each other. So now here is the length from B to D, from substation B to substation D, ZBD, in the presence of infeed. If there is no infeed, then obviously that B to D is simple sum of Z B to C, this impedance, and ZC to D, this impedance. But due to the presence of infeed, impedance of the line seen by this relay RB is given by this formula, which I have shown here in this slide. So now ZBC plus ZCD, this portion of the line, okay, in the presence of in-feed current I2. So this formula is written if I put or take this fault point from here up to this bus. If we assume that fault is here on this bus, how much is impedance seen by this relay RB in the presence of this in-feed I2? That is given by this equation. Let's substitute the values here because all these values are known to us. That BC is 4 plus J40, that CD is 2 plus J20, 1 plus I2 over I1. That ratio is given as 1.2. By substituting these values and solving this, that BD is 8.4 plus J84 ohm. Next, we want to find out the line length from B to G. So for that purpose, we will assume that a fault is here on this bus and in-feed current is coming from substation D towards the fault. So this time I3 will become in-feed current. This is in-feed current. What is the impedance seen by relay RB? If this is the situation, that will be the line impedance from B to G. That B to G is equal to that B to C plus that C to G into 1 plus I3 over I1. All the values are given. That C to G is 1 plus J10, 1 plus here, 1 plus I3 over I2. This is the ratio given I3 over I1. This is the ratio given 0.5. By substituting these values here in this equation, that B to G is 5.5 plus J55. So here, this ZBD and ZB to G are line impedances seen by the relay RB in the presence of in-feed current from the other terminal. Now we will compare these two line lengths. Whichever is greater, that would be selected for the setting of zone 2. Obviously, we can no need to compare them by calculating their magnitude. We can see here ZBD is larger than ZB to G. So this will be our selection for zone 2 setting. Criteria is zone 2 is 1.2 times that B to D in the presence of in-feed. By multiplying it 1 by 2, that is 10.08 plus J 100.8 ohm. In polar form, that would be 101.3, 101.3, angle 84.3. In this way, we have calculated zone 2. So it means in the presence of this in-feed, relay is reaching up to 120% of line length of that B to D. If that in-feed will disappear, mean this line end from here, it is open. If this circuit breaker is open, there is no in-feed. Definitely reach will go beyond 120%. That it may become 130, 140 or 150%, even greater than that. So that is tolerable. Okay. But under reaching of zone 2 is not acceptable. Over reaching can be tolerated. Next is zone 3 setting. Zone 3 of RB. Purpose of zone 3 is to provide backup to the next line section. Luckily here for relay RB, there is only one next line section, that is from D to E. So this is only one next line section. So that's why no need to have a comparison. So criteria for the zone setting is the primary line section B to D plus 1.5 times next line section D to E. Next is question is whether we consider the in-feed or we ignore the in-feed. Answer is obviously we will have to consider in-feed because we want zone 3 to overreach in all circumstances. If in-feed will not be there, then reach will further increase. That is not a problem for us. But if we ignore the in-feed and do the setting of in-feed, zone 3 might underreach and may fail to provide backup to complete next line section. It means now setting will be done by calculating the line impedances in the presence of in-feed. So here it means the line impedance of D to E will be calculated if we assume that fault is on bus E. Then this current I2 is being contributed up to that here in this manner. Okay, this I2 will act as a in-feed current. So this is the zone 3 setting, that B to C plus that C to D into the impact of in-feed here. This impedance will become higher due to the flow of this in-feed current. How much? 1 plus I2 over I1. Okay, plus this impedance of the line will become higher than its actual value. It appears to be higher than actual value to this relay RB due to this in-feed current I2. Same I2 is flowing through this 4 plus J40 as well. So that is D to E 1 plus I2 over I1. And what is this 1.5 times of ZD, that is the criteria for the setting of zone 3, 150% of next line section. Okay, so now I hope you can understand why I had multiplied ZCD with these factors and ZDE with these factors, just to consider the impact of infeed. So after substituting the values here in this equation, Z3 is 21.6 plus J2 16 ohm, and in polar form that will be 217.1 into with angle 84.3 degrees. I hope now you understand how to do the relay setting when we have a multi-terminal line. The only thing is to consider the impact of in-feed. And if we have a next line section beyond this relay G, the substation G over here, then how to do the setting? So remember, as we have done for zone 2, that we have compared two line sections and then selected the larger one for the zone 2 setting. Similar comparison is required for zone 3, but here we cannot compare two line sections with each other. Here what we do, we completely calculate the setting for both the next line section. Whichever will be higher will be our selection. So here is an assignment. Do the relay setting for relay RG, which is over here, for all the three zones setting, zone 1, zone 2 and zone 3 setting. It is given that the ratio of I1 to I2 is 0.7 and I3 to I2 is 0.5. Now here we can see there are two ends of this line from G to B and G to D. So in this way zone 1 will be selected. Then we calculate the line impedance from G to B and G to D in the presence of infeed to find out the zone 2 setting. And for the zone 3 setting, we have now next two line sections. One line section is from B to A and other line section is from D to E. Now setting will be, we will have to calculate zone 3 setting for RG, first considering B to A, then considering D to E. Whichever setting will be higher, that will be the selection for zone 3 setting. Okay, comparison will be done after completely calculating the zone 3 setting for both next line section. Whichever will be higher will be our final selection. So in this way, we made this selection of zone 3 setting. The question is in-feed current. When we are considering this next line section B to A, we assume fault over here. Okay, and see how much impedance is seen by this relay RG. This I2 current will be the local current. I3 current is being supplied into the fault in this way. So this I3 current will act as in-feed current. So we will have to use this ratio for the calculation of zone 3 setting or line impedance from G to B. We will have to use this ratio. And if we are selecting the other side, the other line section, then we assume that fault is at this substation E. In that condition, I2 is the local current which is being supplied to this relay RG or available to this relay RG. And here, this substation or this source is contributing this current towards the fault, which is acting as in-feed. So I1 will become in-feed. So we will have to use this ratio of current to calculate or modify this impedance as well as this impedance. So this is the local current, this is the in-feed current. The current being supplied from this end I3 has nothing to do with the voltage or impedance seen by this relay RG, because that current is going into the fault here. It is not impacting the impedance seen by this relay RG. Okay, so that's why we are not going to consider I3 here in this condition and I1 here in this condition when fault occurs at substation A. Okay, when fault occurs here, I3 will be in feed when fault occurs at substation E, I1 will be in feed current. So students sometimes get confused in this concept. Do this example, this is your assignment. No need to submit this assignment. You can do it at your end and share your problems associated, or you can say the problem in your concept that you are facing in solving this example, this assignment. I hope I have cleared everything regarding the setting of relay for multi-terminal line. This is your assignment and end of the lecture.